Good evening, everybody. Tonight, I'm planning to talk about how to establish positive peace in Cyprus. Cyprus, which has been a place with an unresolved problem for more than 50 years. And I hope that if we can manage to bring positive peace to Cyprus, this will set a precedent for other areas elsewhere in the world which have been infected by ethnic conflicts. A few years ago, I was invited to a conference to give a speech, and the conference name was Peace is Possible, One Community at a Time. Indeed, I believe that peace is possible, and the way to go is to take one community at a time. But for this, we need to be innovative, constantly try to create new ideas as to how to reach peace and motivate people around these ideas. We need to break this self-fulfilling prophecy of clash of civilizations, which argues that, in a very foolish way without any evidence, that people who belong to different cultures or civilizations, when they come together, that they are doomed to clash. I think that for multi-ethnic and multi-religious societies, we have to strive to create what we call consociational models, models of governance based on power sharing between different groups, be it religious, ethnic, or whatever sectarian groups they are coming from. In my own journey to contribute to positive peace to Cyprus, I believe in blending idealism with pragmatism. My idealism comes from my deep conviction that we, in the 21st century, have to go beyond this accustomed nation-state paradigm, which we inherited from the Treaty of Westphalia and the French Revolution during the 17th and the 18th centuries, respectively. We need to break this self-fulfilling prophecy of clash of civilizations here. Before talking about how we can bring positive peace to Cyprus, we have to define what positive peace means. According to the father of peace studies, Johann Galtung, he categorizes violence in three manners, in three types. Type 1, direct violence. Type 2, structural violence. And type 3, cultural violence. Let me explain. If, let's say in a country, people are being killed, that means that there is direct violence there. Let's say in a country, if there are children who die because of poverty, that shows that there is structural violence there in that country. Let's talk about cultural violence. If you are not aware that children die because of poverty in a country, or if you try to legitimize the death of these kids in that country, that means that there is cultural violence in that country. So any type of hatred against the other or any type of racism is some sort of cultural violence that we need to erase if we want to achieve positive peace. In that sense, we do not have direct violence in Cyprus. That's fine. In that sense, that's another way of saying we have negative peace in Cyprus. But in Cyprus, to a certain extent, we still have structural violence as well as cultural violence that we need to erase, eliminate if we want to establish truly positive peace in Cyprus. But how do we do that? Well, in my opinion, we have to start doing things differently from the way they have been done in the last at least 46 years since the intercommunal negotiations started in Cyprus between the two communities under the UN auspices back in 1968. I think that since then, the negotiations have been going on between the two leaders. We call it track one negotiations. And the track one negotiations have been taking place in the UN buffer zone, UNPA, UN protected area, remember? Totally cut off from the rest of the society. The negotiations have been going on between the two leaders and a handful of technical people who are the members of the respective negotiation teams. So if you count them, they are not more than 24. Where is the rest of the society? I think that, look, I'm not trying to belittle the leaders level or track one level negotiations. No, we need that because at the end of the day, it will be the two leaders who are going to reach a settlement, a text, a solution, right? So it is important. But we need to envisage what I call the process in Cyprus more broadly. Instead of focusing on the intercommunal negotiations, we need to focus on the big peace process. So the unit of analysis that we have to deal with should be the peace process, of which the leaders level negotiations is an important part, but only a part of it. In short, the peace process in Cyprus needs to be more inclusive. What do I mean by more inclusive? Do you think that I mean that we have to put all the NGOs and the civil society organizations into the same room to negotiate? No, I don't mean that. But at least the input of the civil society as well as the general public needs to be fed in to the ongoing negotiations on the leaders level. This is how you empower civil society and the general public. So in a way, you create a new actor from this input, a new actor, and make them part of the negotiations. I think that the way to go here in Cyprus is to implement a series of substantive CBMs, confidence-building measures, between the two communities in Cyprus that would bridge the big gap of trust between both the leaders, because as I told you, they have been negotiating totally cut off in this UN-protected area, totally cut off from the society, in a manner where there is a big gap between them. And more importantly, there is also a big gap of trust between the two communities because in the last 40, 50 years, we have not witnessed any cooperation, any substantive cooperation on any practical manner between the Greek and Turkish Cypriots. And this big gap of trust is also poisoning the ongoing negotiations on the leaders level. We need to change the very lives of people by making them cooperate. They need to see that cooperation between Greek and Turkish Cypriots is possible, and more importantly, that it is desirable. We need people to talk to one another, communicate in good faith, so that we will be able to tear down the walls of structural as well as cultural violence. And for that matter, we need a series of confidence-building measures between the two communities. And if you ask me what confidence-building measures do you have in mind? I usually use this word, this saying, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. But the CBM's confidence building measures should not be nominal, but they should have the potential to touch the very lives of ordinary Greek and Turkish Cypriots, to change them to the positive, to show them that cooperation is possible, but also it is desirable. And there are tons of things, confidence building measures that we can do, but have not done so far. Think about it together with me. How about having a simple roaming agreement for the mobile phones? See, my mobile phone everywhere in the world that I go, be it Russia, be it United States, be it Iraqi Kurdistan, or be it other parts of the world that I have traveled, it works everywhere, except one place. When I cross the buffer zone to the other side, 300 meters, it stops working. Same thing for Greek Cypriots. When they cross to the north, a few hundred meters later, their phones stop working. Isn't that stupid? Here you have a confidence-building measure. How about establishing a joint commission of Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot history teachers to go through the history textbooks, which are full of hatred and racism? If we manage to do that, then we will be able to educate and raise new generation who are not poisoned by the ethno-nationalism that we have been suffering for so long. How about opening the fenced area of Varosha, which is not very far away from here? If you do that, there will be thousands of Greek Cypriots be able to go back to their properties. They'll be happy. But at the same time, there will be thousands of new jobs created for both communities. There will be thousands of new opportunities, new joint ventures that can change the arithmetic in Cyprus. Another thing, let's turn this UN buffer zone. Remember, we have a UN buffer zone in Cyprus, which is about 180 kilometers long. And it has been so far a buffer to divide the two communities. How about thinking the other way around? How about turning the buffer zone into an area, a common space of cooperation between the two communities? You need ideas? Okay. Open up the original international Nicosia airport as a joint airport run by Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. It's waiting for you down there in the buffer zone. Get the two communities involved. How about building a giant solar power plant in the buffer zone, where the energy produced can be used by two sides, in a country where you have at least 300 days of sun? And let me give you a secret. It's free, right? How about another idea? Why not build a joint university in the buffer zone, where, for example, Eastern Mediterranean University can be one wing, and University of Cyprus can be the other wing of this umbrella institution? I mean, come on. The sky is the limit. No? I think that the way to go in Cyprus is to implement series of confidence-building measures which will accompany the ongoing negotiations on the leadership level. But it should be independent of the ongoing negotiations, because as you can see, the negotiations sometimes can get stuck or suspended. No matter how, the confidence-building measures should continue so that this big gap of trust between the two communities can be bridged. And this has not been tried before in Cyprus, so this is something new. So we need to constantly create new ideas, as to how to contribute to peace and get people motivated and engaged so that we can reach positive peace in Cyprus. If we can manage to do that, we will be setting a precedent, an example for areas which have been also infected by ethnic conflict. As I said at the beginning of my speech, peace is possible, and the way to go is one community at a time. Let's start it in Cyprus. Thank you.